Hey, my name is Michael Bodnarchuk. I am creator of CodeceptJS, and in these short videos I would like to talk about new fancy things that are coming to CodeceptJS, and maybe you didn't notice them, but they are. So one of the recent releases, nowadays it's October 2019, we have added a cool new meta package, CodeceptJS configure. So even though it was mentioned in configuration, it was mentioned in release notice, the only thing we have in the current issues, it's what is this thing for and how can we use it. Okay, so I'll try to answer this question in current video. So let's take a look what CodeceptJS configure is and where can you use it. So the idea behind this package is that you can really be drowned in the big configuration if you add more and more options here in CodeceptJS Conf, adding helpers, adding plugins, adding more page objects, and once at one day the configuration will be very long, looking like this. So probably you won't be able to split this up, to tune this, to change options very nicely because of the very big configuration. So the idea of the package of CodeceptJS configure is to provide some simple functions that can take your configuration and update it to solve some common cases. So one of the problems we really face here is that when we work with different helpers like Puppeteer, WebDriver, and so on, we have options to run it in headless mode. So to do so, I need to set show false. But then I will need to create this test, and I need to go to the configuration file again to enable window mode. And changing configuration on each run is really boring. That's why I wanted to use the very simple function which I'm importing from CodeceptJS configure projects. It's actually CodeceptJS configure. Because I'm currently in the same project, I need to import it like this. But anyway, for you it's CodeceptJS/configure. So you can use this function set headless when. So as it's easy can be understood from the name of this function, that it will change the mode to the headless when some boolean value goes true. So if I configure it like this, everything will be headless. Let's try. So as you see currently in configuration, I set to show the window mode, but I'm disabling it with the config hook. So I'm running tests with steps, and you see no window was opened. Okay, that was fine, but I really wanted something more flexible. So how maybe I can turn this on and off with environment variables. So I'm using process.env.headless like this to enable and disable this mode. So again, I'm trying to run tests in a normal mode without passing in this environment variable, and you see the window was opened and test finished. Now I'm enabling the headless option, and you see no window was opened and test ran much faster. It was like 3 seconds to 6 seconds. Wow, that's cool. As you see, you can use whatever you want here. You can use profile and pass in profile value, profile headless. you can actually use config arguments like argv and manually pass configuration input. Anyway, the environment options are like the most flexible and easiest to use way to switch on and off the headless mode. Okay, so that was one problem that we solved with setHeadlessWhen function. The second problem is, okay, it's easy to configure Puppeteer because there is show option directly in Puppeteer to enable and disable it. How can we do the same in WebDriver? So to enable headless mode in WebDriver, you need actually to go and to Google how to do it. So because WebDriver natively do not support headless mode. So what it does actually, it passes some arguments to Chrome or Firefox drivers, and with these very low-level arguments, those browsers are executed in headless mode. So that's why we at CodeceptJS, we do not provide you anything built in like parameter like show true, because it's not something that WebDriver does natively, so not to make you confused by it. That's why WebDriver do not have this option. So usually when you need to go and enable headless mode for WebDriver, you set this desired capabilities option. So yeah, and you need to specify that browser is Chrome now. Okay, so you need to set headless flag, disable GPU, and all these low-level flags. So you see, setting up this headless mode for WebDriver is a bit harder. But nevertheless, when I changed everything here and when I switched to WebDriver and using setHeadless function, it actually executed browser in headless mode. So I didn't have to put these arguments into my configuration. I didn't have to overcomplicate it with these values, because setHeadless function already did that for me. So let's take a look what it does. So right now we are inside this, again, inside this repository, inside the hooks directory, and we are looking at to setHeadlessWhen function, how it works. It's very, very simple. So it adds some functions that will be executed right after the config was loaded. And then this function just takes a configuration and checks, okay, if there was an enabled helper Puppeteer, and disable the show, so enable headless mode. Nightmare, the same. TestCafe, the same. All these three helper support headless mode natively. Nothing for Protractor, because it was really maybe you will send a pull request to support Protractor if you use it. But for WebDriver, we do the following. If we use WebDriver and the browser is Chrome, we pass in these browser capabilities and merge with all configs. So you see, this function was very basic, but it provided common pattern for all helpers we had. So the same way we have functions like set window size. So probably you need to change window size, and you want to have flexibility on setting browser size on each run. So as you know, we have options like this one, and if you need to change it very in lots of cases, it's really annoying to change this directly in config. So better to have it defined like here, set window size, and now you can also use some environment variables, some configuration other files to pass in the window size. So we can remove this from a configuration, and now window size will be set exactly like this. And so we can check it. So as you have maybe noticed that my tests are failing because they are actually checking for the window size. So let's see that if I pass in these values, the tests will pass because window size was correct, even in headless mode. So I am changing window size without changing it here in configuration. I am leaving the headless mode. I remind you that I am running now in Selenium WebDriver, and you see my tests finally passed. Okay, let's do this for Puppeteer just to show you that everything worked correctly. And yeah, tests passed as well. Wow. So about the Puppeteer, if you set window size like this, and disabling this function, and I will execute the test in the window with mode, and I will stop the test just to show you one thing here. So let me do this. I'm running my test. So I expect that, oh, probably I didn't enter, set the headless, enabled the headless mode. Okay, I will try my, again to execute the Puppeteer. Okay, the window was opened, and you see that it wasn't actually resized properly. So yes, the width is as we expected. It's 1500, but the actual window size wasn't, so the window wasn't resized to match the size of a page. This happens because Puppeteer have different values for viewport and the window size. So what happens here? That Puppeteer opens a browser in a window and then changes the internal size of to values we provide. And if you want to match the window size to viewport size, they call this internal page sizing a viewport, you need to go into Puppeteer and fix internal option very similar manner to how we set headless mode for Chrome. So we need to provide low-level Chrome argument to set window size. So if I disable this and enable my config hook set window size, it will actually do much better job for me, as it will take this automatically and resize window to the desired size as you see it now. So yep, it did it. Nice. So what happened actually behind the scene? What window size actually did? So let's go into this. You see, window size actually just sets this config value window size for all helpers except Puppeteer. So for Puppeteer, it checks, okay, if it's a Puppeteer, then we add a window size option to Chrome arguments, and then we disable the viewport, and that's how we resize window accordingly to our viewport. Not so simple, but if you know it, it's already easy to use, and that's actually the idea behind this package, to provide you with some configuration tricks which are not very easy to come out with your own, which we cannot add to CodeceptJS itself because it may not serve for everyone, and we don't want to be asked by people, hey, why it's not working for me. You can still manually tune and configure your project as you wish, but with config hooks you can easily get a better result and faster. So let's again finalize and see this project. So it's CodeceptJS configure on GitHub. It's mentioned in documentation in configuration section under common configuration patterns. Probably you will it's also, you can see it in basics in configuration section. So you see it's already mentioned here, and you can easily add your new hooks if you can consider they as useful. You can send pull requests to our hooks. So again, config hook is just a function that takes configuration, changes something in it, and you are done. So if you know how to improve, add your own config hook, send us a pull request. So it's, you see it's under hooks directory, just a function that uses only this API config add hook. So use current functions as example to write your own. You can even write your own function without making a pull request to CodeceptJS configure. So probably you need your custom setup for browser stack or South Labs, and you need easily to change between cloud execution and local execution. So you can create your own function. So the only thing you need to know is that you need to import config from CodeceptJS package. So in your case, it will be CodeceptJS here. Then use export a function and use config add hook, and you take configuration as a parameter. Then you can change everything with this configuration, and it will be updated when CodeceptJS is launched. So pretty simple. You can use it on your own. You can publish it in our repo. So yeah, you are very welcome. Just as a final note, if you want to send a pull request, take a look in our tests index test file. So we have all tests for current config hooks. So please update it accordingly to add a unit test for your config hooks. So that's all for today. I tried to be very brief, very fast. Sorry for that maybe. And I really hope that you will use config hooks. Again, they are very nice, very easy to play. And to run them, you need CodeceptJS, at least version 2.3.3. So I would like you to try it and send a feedback in our Slack or in our forum, or ping me in a Twitter. So thank you for watching, and I hope there will be more videos at CodeceptJS coming soon. See ya.